go. We've got another awesome episode. Deb is not here tonight, but that's all right because we have an awesome guest, someone that we've seen his work a lot, but we haven't actually had a chance to meet him until just a few minutes ago. So I'm excited to have a conversation with him. He's a filmmaker and owner of Keoni Films. Keoni Carrion. What's going on, man?
Good, good. Just hanging out right now. How are you?
I'm good. Now I
Good.
hate when I do this. Did I get your last name right? Is it Carrion?
Carry on. Yep. Just
Yes.
like just like the luggage.
I like that. Just like the perfect. I always mean like I was pretty sure that's how you pronounced it, but then I forgot to ask you, and then I introduced the guest. I'm
Yeah.
like, dang,
Spot on. Spot on.
yes, all right, I like it. We're starting off good. I gotta say this too, because if I don't say this now, it's gonna drive me nuts. If you guys are just listening and not watching the video version of this, Keani has probably the most post-it notes I've ever seen behind him. It's a dope background. How many post-it notes is that?
I have no idea. I've gone through a lot though. This is
Does that bug you too? Now hold on. Are those no like is that just decoration? Or are those notes? What is going on here?
um they're just each one of them are just notes really. I mean if I have a favorite song lyric that I heard, if I found a poem or like a movie line, it's like anything and everything that has just that I felt are has spoken to me or something.
That's
Um,
awesome, man.
but I use these for like inspiration for a lot of my work and stuff.
I love it, man. And
Yeah.
I'll say this too. I know it's probably not the intention, but it's a cool backdrop to the Zoom video right
Yeah,
here. I like it.
yeah.
So Keone was telling me before we started recording, he's like, "Hey man, I'm a little nervous. I'm usually behind the camera, not in front." And I'm gonna tell you this right now. I'm nervous to have you on because I had to make sure all my lights are okay behind me. The lighting was okay because I mean, if no one's familiar with Keone's work, it's really dope. And I was
Thank
just
you.
telling you, usually we try to explain how we're connected to our guests. Like I said, we just met a couple minutes ago for the very first time, but we've been following you for quite a while. And
hmm
the reason we started following you is because I'm a graduate from Casa Roble High School,
Oh, okay.
and
Right on.
I have a couple other podcasts, and Coach Horner is a one of our favorite guests that we've had on that podcast. I didn't have him as a teacher, but I always tell people it's like that guy's the mayor of Casa. He just
He
everybody
is. He
knows him,
really
everybody
is.
loves him. You know what I'm saying?
I
And
know exactly. Yeah.
yeah, he's just a good dude. But I remember seeing I don't even know how many years. I don't know when you started working with him, but I saw one of the Casa Roble football hype videos that you did, and I'm like, who is doing this? No offense to Coach Horner, I knew it wasn't him. I knew
Yeah.
someone else was helping him out, and then from then we had Paul Piercy on the show a couple times. He's actually our
hmm
guest of the year, 2021 guest of
Yes.
the year.
Yes.
And he loves your work and he's worked with you a lot. And then Daniel Thomas has also used you before, so we have a lot of common connections. And so I'm just excited to have you on the show, man, to actually kind of pick your brain about this stuff that you're passionate about. So um, just tell me a little bit about yourself, how you got started in film, and then how you got to where you are today.
How did I get started? I guess just like any other kid, I started using my mom's video camera. Um, and I just started making these funny skits. A lot of them had to do with like gunfires. Well, whenever you're a kid watching a movie, you'd always see like these stuntmen shooting off guns and like I don't know, something about guns and like punching and all that stuff. So I would make a bunch of skits with my friends and we would just film around the house and stuff. And then my mom actually worked at Apple at that time and she started using this program called Final Cut Pro because her job allowed her to get like a lot of the software apps for free. Um,
Nice.
so and then somehow I think I just happened to like see her using it or something. And then that's kind of how I was introduced to Final Cut Pro, which is what I've been editing on for the last 5, 6 years. And I still use it today. Um, but I took a couple of film classes in middle school, did the photo classes in high school, and right after high school, I decided that I didn't want to go to college. I just wanted to pursue filmmaking. And, fast forward a couple of years, I've reached out to a bunch of people. I've done some passion projects and whatnot, and I'm just chilling right now making films.
That's awesome, man. Let me ask you. So was your mom, was she making films, or was she just editing videos, or why did why I mean, you said you saw her using Final Cut. What was she using it for?
Yeah. She wasn't making any feature films or anything. I think something with her work required her to make um videos for her employees or something like that. I'm not too sure exactly, but that's I just I just saw her make something of that, and then I just said, "Hey, can I make a video?"
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I actually, believe it or not, I use Final Cut Pro as well.
Yeah.
Our videos look very different. I sometimes I use it, man, and I'm like, I don't even think I even come close to tapping into the full potential of what Final Cut's for. I feel like a fraud when I use it. I'm like, as long as I can edit, chop, chop, chop here, and put the thing together, I'm good. But I imagine the stuff that
Yeah.
you're doing is such next level. But
I
so you
mean,
so
I'm
you like
still learning, so
I'm so far behind you, man. But that's good to hear for anybody who's listening. Like if you're still learning and you're doing all the amazing stuff that you're doing, like that's a good mindset to have, right? Like I think
absolutely.
once we stop trying to grow and learn, then it's, we've kind of hit a ceiling, and we'll probably, stop getting good at our craft, which is not at
Yeah.
all well, especially with filmmaking, right? Because you kind of have to always be learning because
Right.
technology is always changing.
Oh, yeah.
Social media is changing. How you put
Mhm.
together content is changing. So like how do you like stay up with everything? I mean, you're still super young, so you're like in the middle of it, but like how do you stay up to date with everything that's going on as far as technology, content, all that?
Um, Lots of keeping up with social media. As much as I hate going on Instagram and, scrolling through TikTok and whatnot, that's that's like where you're gonna find all the trends and um finding like the inspiration that's current, I guess. But yeah, I mean, social media is a great place to find inspiration, and that's most of the time that's how I find a lot of trends and whatnot, things to stay updated.
Do you have a favorite content creator right now, like on Instagram?
Oh boy.
It's
On
like picking your
ins
favorite kid.
Yeah, yeah. I actually I used to watch a bunch of filmmaking, a lot of filmmakers who would talk about like gear and like all the technical stuff about filmmaking, but I kind of grew out of that, and now I'm more um I watch a lot of videos that are more about just like philosophy
Okay.
in life. Like I rarely ever watch filmmaking videos. I'll usually only watch like films or music videos, but sorry, I kind of strayed from the point.
That's okay.
But anyways, my favorite Instagram and YouTuber, I love to watch Pursuit of Wonder.
Okay.
It's a YouTube channel, and they just make a lot of content that's based on like life and philosophies and the human condition. And then the reason why I love watching them is because it inspires a lot of my ideas and whatnot.
Okay. That's awesome. So I was going back to what you said about not following a bunch of filmmakers like that anymore. Is that intentional? Because I mean, something that I've talked to, either musicians on the show or other filmmakers or videographers. One of the questions I like to ask is, how do you kind of guard against that fine line between inspiration and imitation? Because obviously we see stuff, even for me as a
Mm,
podcaster, I have favorite podcasts, and sometimes I'm worried that because I listen to those so much that it's going to start infiltrating its way into what I do here. So
right.
I try to be really conscious of not doing that. I know the same is for you guys. So how do you kind of protect yourself against that? And is that one of the reasons why you don't follow and watch a lot of filmmakers?
Yes, actually that was like a big um I had a big realization like a couple of months ago on that exact thing. Um but yeah, I mean one of the reasons why I did stop watching a lot of filmmaker, like a lot of cliche films from YouTube creators, was just because like I felt like I was creating content that was more based on like the audience, what was in trend. Um, and I felt like I needed to kind of find my own style and whatnot. And then that also brings me to like another point that I was thinking of, and that was like, I don't know if you've ever heard of this concept of like, nothing original, or it's impossible to make something original, or something like that, because everything is like in some way, shape, or form taken from something else.
Sure.
Um, and I think that is true to a point, because um, whether or not you take something from someone else, I think that if you do that and then you just take bits and pieces from like everyone else and you create your own thing, I don't I don't think that's imitation. I think you're getting inspiration and then you're using it to like make your own art. Um, and something that I've been trying to work on, is being able to like take inspiration, but not the whole piece, and then just making it into something that's mine, and that's unique to me.
I like that. And
Yeah.
that's something that drives me crazy about social media. And I'm sure it's the same for you, especially with TikTok. I mean, I've joked with my wife before. It's like I don't know how many times I need to see the same video of
Yes.
someone
Oh my
throwing a shirt up in the
gosh.
air and then it lands on them. It's like, but and again, like, but the people do it right because it is a trending thing,
Right.
and you get more views, more likes when you do those things because it's seen by more people.
Right.
But for me, it's like it's not creative anymore, and it's interesting when they can do it in a creative way. But for the most part, it's
Yeah.
the same exact thing, and it's tough to watch. Now, I don't do it. Maybe one day I will really try to get some views on this podcast. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, I like what you said though. It's like, yeah, I think what nothing new is under the sun, right? There's nothing new under the sun.
Right.
And but if you take pieces of it, I think if it's just a blatant copy of something, that's where the imitation is a problem.
Right.
And it's not genuine anymore. And I thought it was interesting what you said too. You came to the realization that you can't just create to get more views, and you can't create just with the audience in mind, which is interesting because obviously this is called Connectable, and our whole goal is to connect people and connect our guests with our audience and vice versa. And so you as an artist, how do you how do you figure out that whole world where, okay, I want my art to connect with my audience, but I can't create art based on what my audience wants, right? There's kind of a tug of war there. Like, how do you deal with that dilemma?
I'm still trying to figure that
Yeah.
out, to be
Okay.
honest. Yeah, I mean, I've been trying to figure it out. But like, I mean, I think the best concept that I have right now, um, is just like find inspiration from trends, like do the trends, and just try to make it unique in some way, shape, or form, and just give it your personality. Because I think that's, at the end of the day, that's really what's gonna set people apart. Whether you're just an artist or you're a filmmaker. Anyone can buy a camera. Anyone can buy a paintbrush, and um but at the end of the day, it all comes down to like who you as a person are, and like, your experiences and all of that, and how you put that out into the world. That's what makes us different. And so I've been trying to I've been trying to follow the trends and whatnot, and try to somehow make it into like my own work, but it's hard, but still working on it.
Yeah. Well, and I imagine it's difficult too because when you're working with a client, if someone hires you and they have a specific vision, and I'm sure that some people hire you because they want you to do something that's currently trending,
Right.
and that's got to be tough too. And I'm always interested in that idea of talk when we talk to artists, like how do you, obviously you're hired by this client and you're supposed to do a job, but then there's also the artistic side of you that's like,
Mhm.
I don't really want to do this because, like,
Yeah.
the creative side of you is like fighting against it. So like when you work with a client, how much input do you have? Are they leaning on you a lot for the creativity, or do they come in saying, okay, this is exactly what I want, just make it
Right.
happen? Like what is that like for you?
Um, Whenever I first started making films, I actually started making wedding films, um, to start off with my business, and, um, obviously with weddings, it's a very traditional. Usually everything's pretty similar,
Sure.
in a lot of ways, and so there's not a whole lot of creative control, and that was just one aspect of it, but now it's like I feel like I've gotten to a point where I've been able to really only take the projects and the clients where they allow me more creative control, um and so most of the time, I'm only really accepting jobs that allow me to have that creative control, or in some way where our values or our like our visions are aligned. I usually try to only work with companies like that.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that because, well, last time we had Paul Piercy on the show, I can't remember this. I'm going to paraphrase what he said. You'd have to go back and listen to
Yeah.
his exact wording, but we brought you up because I said, "Hey, man, I know this dude that you work with, Keoni, um, is incredible." And I said, "How do you work with, like, how does that work? How does that working relationship?" And he said something like, "It's an awesome relationship because you guys almost don't even need to communicate like verbally to make a project dope." He's just like, we've worked together for so long and worked together for so well that it just, he knows what I want. And
Right.
so I'm just like, hey man, go for it. So that's gotta be a cool feeling, right? When you have a connection with someone like that, where it's like, we just know how this is supposed to go. We don't even
Right.
need to say it. Let's just do it. So what is that feeling like when you find a client like that?
Oh yeah. I mean, initially, like clients like Paul and I'm working with some other companies, but most of the time it usually takes time to get to that point.
Sure.
So it's not like all my clients are like that. So obviously, whenever I have people like that to work with, where we're kind of always on the same page, it's definitely like a relaxing and fun part of the job.
Yeah. What was it? This is always interesting to me too. Like, what was it like? Obviously, you said you did weddings and stuff like that, but the first time you had a project that you were really passionate about and that you just poured all of your creative juices into, what was that? Obviously, it's exciting to be able to work on those projects, but what was it like when you like received the payment for that first time for that first project? Like, that has to be such a cool thing when you start a business and then you receive that paycheck. It's like, oh, like, this is what I mean. I know you probably do it for more than just the money, but the money is nice. It's your
Oh
business.
yeah.
And so it's like, man, like, I'm doing the thing that I love and people are paying me X amount to do it. Like, what is that feeling like?
I mean, I think it still feels like the first time that I ever got hired by someone. Like it's a great feeling to be able to know that like someone wants to pay me to do something I love. Like I don't think I'll ever go back to a I don't think I'll ever take a normal job after this, you know?
Yeah.
It just it makes me wanna keep getting better.
Yeah. Well, dude, how could you take a normal job after, like, if you look at the videos in your
I don't
projects and
even
all
have
the,
a resume.
yeah. Well, yeah, I feel like you have a resume. It just looks a lot different than everybody else.
Yeah,
It's on
that's
YouTube
true.
instead. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's gotta be, so I imagine that I imagine that people have approached you about taking a more traditional, like, 9 to 5 job, doing what you're doing, but doing it in a very specific way. Is that true? Or do people not approach you about that type of thing?
For regarding film or
Yeah, like, I'm sure, like, some companies have reached out saying, "Hey, we would love for you to work for us," but then that takes out
mm,
this whole creative control side of things. Like, now you're working for someone, and it's so much different than working for yourself and owning your own business. But have people reached out to you before? Like companies reached out and it's like, hey, if you ever want to work for me, like you have a spot because we
Right.
want what you have.
Um, yeah, I actually the only real company that um I've gotten that offer was actually this artist in LA who I'm actually still working for him right now, but they're really cool. If you haven't I think his name's Nefex. If you haven't heard of him, you can check out his music. But they're super cool, and I actually work for them like on a consistent basis.
Wow.
But I'm glad to say that like they're very conscious of they're very conscious of me as a creator. So, yes, I technically work for them or like I'm an editor for them, but they give me a lot of creative control for a lot of their projects.
Very cool. That's awesome. No, it must be nice being in like high demand like that, where all these companies and these bands and everything want to work with you. Um, do you have a favorite type of video to shoot or a favorite type of film to make? Like, do you enjoy doing
Oh
music videos the
boy.
most? Do you enjoy doing commercials? I mean, what's your favorite thing to do?
Um, I've only really done I haven't done a whole lot, or at least as much as I've wanted to. But I would say that the fitness videos, similar to the ones that you've seen for Be Active, those are a lot of fun. And I would also have to say the music videos are up there as well. Um, both of which are very relaxed for shooting, it's more fun, obviously than shooting weddings. There's a lot of pressure.
Sure.
Um, but I guess any videos like that that are fairly relaxed and fun, I'm all for it.
That's awesome. One of the music videos, I'm not even a fan. Like, I don't dislike this band. I just don't. I don't know much about their music, but I've become familiar with their music videos. Is OK Go? Have you seen their music videos?
Yeah, yeah.
Some of
I
the stuff's
love the music
wild,
videos. Yeah.
wild stuff.
It's
Now,
crazy
when you look, if anybody is not familiar, OK Go, they're probably most famous for
for their music
the
videos.
treadmill video, right? Like when they,
Yeah,
I read the name of the song. It was a big song quite a few years ago, but their music videos are just crazy innovative and
insane.
creative, and just the way they do it is just wild. So when you see something like that, for me, I'm just like, I don't know how they did this. For
Mhm.
you, can you look at a film or a music video without dissecting it, or are you basically ruined when it comes to any kind of film? You just have to like analyze everything.
I do have to analyze it,
Yeah,
but not in like a a bad way. It's actually kind of it's a nice process for me. I like to break, or at least I like to try breaking down like, how they shot this, or how they set up the light for this shot. But I don't think it's like a bad thing per se.
sure, sure. Do you Now let me ask you this. So I know there's a couple of shows that I've seen over the years. Um, Mr. Robot is one show that comes to mind. The more recently that show, The Bear, uh,
Fair.
comes to mind, and both of those shows had one shot episodes, right? One shot. Now, when you see a one shot episode, are you, because sometimes those one shot episodes they look like one shot, but they're not really one shot.
Right.
If you see something like that, can you basically pick out where the seams are?
I try to, but sometimes the cuts are like really good.
Yeah,
So I can't. But like I don't know if you've seen the movie. I think it was 1917.
I was just gonna say I haven't
Um
seen it, but I know that was pretty famous for that.
it was I mean it took a lot of coordination, that was for sure, but like that whole movie was is they made it look like it was one shot, and that was insane.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but yeah, I do remember that being the big thing about that, and that's a war movie. So there's
Yes.
a lot of craziness going on
Oh yeah.
already, and then on top of that, you add the fact that it was done with one shot.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite film and a filmmaker?
Oh gosh.
Again, it's
I
like
knew
picking your
that
favorite
question
two.
was coming. I
Yeah,
knew it
of
was
course.
coming.
Of course.
Um, I mean, filmmaker. Um, I love the, classics, Christopher Nolan,
Yeah.
Steven Spielberg, um, all of those, all of those guys. But recently, I've actually been getting into a lot of like uh, independent filmmakers. Um, and I only because I love watching blockbuster movies, but I think indie movies and independent movies are where it's at.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just because blockbuster movies are made for the general purpose of selling,
Sure.
and I mean, I love Fast and Furious, but it's
Oh,
it's very far fetched,
hey,
Um,
don't tell my wife that. My wife loves the Fast. I'm not even joking. She loves the Fast and the Furious movies. She might be in the other room watching one right now. I don't know, but she loves those so much. So I'm not gonna tell her that. But yeah,
yeah,
she
no, I
she
I
gets
love
it.
him too, but I just think a lot of the indie movies and the independent films are they're more focused on like the art
Sure.
of cinematography, lighting, coloring, and back to the point again.
Yeah.
Favorite filmmaker right now. Um, there's this director. His name's Solomon Lighthelm. Uh,
Okay.
I found his work on Vimeo. I find a lot of my inspiration on Vimeo as well. And then Jordan Peele, he actually does have a couple of movies.
Mm-hmm.
He did Us and Get Out.
Yep.
And then Ari Aster, he did Hereditary, Midsommar. He does like a lot of the A24 films.
Sure.
Those are really awesome. Um, but yeah,
Okay.
I've been watching a lot of those guys.
Nice. I haven't seen Midsommar, but I heard that's
It's
a
weird.
wild one. Haven't seen that one.
It's weird.
Jordan Peele. I love Get Out. I love Us. I have not seen Nope. Now my
Either have I. Yeah.
Okay, you haven't. Good. 'Cause I was gonna say, if
No.
you've seen it, don't spoil it for me. My two younger brothers saw it, and they came back. They're like, I hate this movie so much, which I feel like it was a very divisive movie for a lot of people. Like I looked at a couple things. I didn't look into the plot or anything like that, but I feel like either people were like, I'm so confused, I don't know what happened, or people were like, this was incredible, which
Right.
is which is interesting. It's always interesting when a movie's that divisive.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I love his stuff. I love his stuff too.
Yeah.
And it's funny. I haven't seen too much of the A24 stuff. I'm trying to think of the last A24 film I saw.
Yeah, they have a lot of interesting films.
Yeah, I'm sure. Man, I can't even think off the top of my head, but yeah, and I'm a big Christopher Nolan fan. You mentioned Christopher
Oh,
Nolan earlier.
yes.
Um,
Absolutely.
now. What do you think happens at the end of Inception? Is it a dream or not?
I can't say. I don't know.
Oh, the way you said that, I'm like, oh, he has inside knowledge. He knows exactly what happened. It's
I don't
tough.
know.
I think the romantic in me is like it was real. It wasn't a
Yeah.
dream. But then I've read some articles. I read too many articles about it. It's like, you know what? They might have a point. Might have been a
Yeah.
dream. Yeah, it's interesting. I love his stuff. I saw
Yeah.
Dunkirk on the IMAX, and that was
Oh,
a I
okay.
almost didn't. Me and my wife went whenever that came
That's
out.
right.
I'm like, God, we'll just see it at the regular theater. I'm like, yo, you know what? We should see it at the IMAX. And I'm so glad I did, because it's just a
Yeah.
different experience. But
Yeah, I've never been to an IMAX.
what?
Yeah.
What is going on? Really? I'm shocked. Now, is there a reason for
Yeah.
that, or just hasn't happened?
I just haven't gone.
Okay, interesting. That's surprising me. I just recently went to a Screen X movie. Have you seen those before? That was interesting. It was so basically you're in a normal movie theater, and then it was actually Top Gun Maverick. I saw it a second
Okay.
time because I heard this Screen X thing was pretty cool. But you have the regular movie theater, and
Screenings.
then certain scenes on both side walls there's projections. So it's like almost like a
Oh,
270-degree.
what the heck?
It was weird. Yeah, for some scenes it looked really cool. Other scenes I'm like, this is very confusing. I'm seeing like four planes when I should be seeing one. Um,
Interesting.
but yeah, I mean, it's just crazy. But again, it goes back to the technology, and
Oh, yeah.
how crazy and how quickly technology moves, because it's just constantly changing. Um,
Right.
that being said, like, what do you shoot on? What's your main? I mean, I'm sure you have multiple cameras, but what's your favorite camera right now to use?
My main camera is the Sony A7S III.
Okay, that sounds fancy. I don't know exactly what that is, but it sounds cool. I for we just recorded our 100th episode, and so
Oh, yeah.
we just we got in the studio. We've been doing Zoom for a while, but we're like, okay, it's episode 100. Let's hop in the studio. And one time for a Father's Day episode, I used my GoPros. You know, I love GoPro, but not really meant for indoors, right? It was a little
Right.
challenging. So I'm like, okay, for this 100th episode, I'm gonna go rent a camera. And as soon
Mhm.
as I walked in the shop, I had a couple of questions, and they're basically like, we're going to give you something simple because we can tell that you don't really know what you're doing. Like, that's perfect. 'Cause I really don't. So, like, how long did it take you to get used to all of the like the mechanics of the cameras? Because you don't. I think some people that don't know, cameras or photography or videography, I don't really know if they realize how complicated these little machines are. There's so much you can do with them. So, like, how
Oh,
long?
yeah.
Like, how long did it take you to like really feel comfortable with all the settings and all of the different functions that a camera has?
Realistically, what happens whenever I get a new camera is I spend the next week after buying the camera and just binge watching a bunch
There
of,
you go.
camera tutorials and, like, everything you need to know about your camera. So, like, if I spend a week learning how, I'd say, like, 2 or 3 months before I'm, like, fully comfortable, um, with the camera, but that's only because, like, I stay up late and I just watch YouTube tutorials till 5 in the morning.
Dude. And that's crazy. You said 2 to 3 months, and that's not
Yeah.
just 2 to 3 months of you saying, "Ah, let me watch a video here and a video there." Like you said, you're obsessively watching these videos, and it's
Yeah.
still taking you 2 to 3 months. Ooh, yeah, it's not for everybody. Some people have the point and shoot, and then some people, use these wild machines that you guys use. So it
Yeah.
is it is pretty impressive, and it's still amazes me sometimes, like what you can do with these cameras.
Oh, yeah.
What I mean? Even on iPhone, right? Like people,
Yeah.
they have those commercials all the time where it's like, "Oh, this film was shot on an iPhone." It's like, that's really impressive.
Yeah,
And
it's
like I said,
scary.
right, it is scary. It's kind of wild. Like this is in the palm of your hand always, and you can
Right.
make these films. Um, but yeah, you know who I was going to ask you earlier, but I kind of got sidetracked. Who I really enjoy following on Instagram is
Yeah.
Zach King.
Oh, yes. I met Zach King once.
You met him.
Yeah.
That's awesome. How'd that
Yeah.
happen?
Uh, Whenever I was obsessed with, I was actually I was actually very inspired by Zach King. So like aside from the skits that I did, I also did a lot of or I tried to remake a lot of Zach King videos, but
Whew, okay.
I went to VidCon one year and I went to one of his workshop classes and I was able to meet him and take a picture.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, is he a good dude? Does he seem like a
Yeah.
good dude?
Yeah,
He
he's
seems super
great.
nice.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, he's great. It's crazy because he has like a whole family now. But whenever I was watching him, I don't even know if he had a girlfriend. But
Okay.
yeah, time flies.
Well, yeah, for sure. Well, I'm sure at that point he wasn't working. I mean, now I've seen him do stuff with Tom Brady and all of
Yeah,
these, athletes and celebrities. His stuff is wild. I mean, I don't even know. I feel like I'll watch one of his videos and think, okay, where's the twist coming? And it still surprises me every time. And then you just try to watch it
yeah,
really closely to see if I can see where it's coming. And it just so
magic.
you said you tried to recreating some of his stuff. Were you able to?
Yeah.
Really?
Not his not any of like the more complex shoots, but like if you go all the way down on my YouTube channel, you'll find them.
I'm gonna take a look for sure. That sounds awesome because I would, like I said, just the imagine that's the crazy thing too, is that this is not just a matter of people pointing the camera and shooting, right?
Yeah,
Like there's so much prep that you guys do and so much thinking that you guys have to do ahead of time to
right.
make sure that every shot is correct, the angles, like how much. So like this is interesting. This may not be interesting for anybody else except for me, but maybe you get a project, someone hires you to
Yes.
do a music video. how long from start to finish does this entire process take? Say it's like a 3.5 minute music video, from shooting to editing, post, all that stuff. Like, how long would that entire process take?
Um, it kind of varies per project, based on um, based on the client's deadlines, but I've had times where I've shot music videos and they're like letting me know that the music video is in 2 weeks,
Oh,
and this is
geez.
like the first time I have to start preparing everything. So like in that in those circumstances, I had like a week to plan everything, um, and then typically after filming, um, I mean, like I said, it just varies per project, but a lot of the hype videos that you've seen for Paul, just to give you like some sort of something to compare it to. Um, for Paul, for a video, for like a hype video, that's like 30 seconds, that could easily take 8 hours. So like for a music video with just the same amount of edits, that's like 2 or 3 minutes, it could easily multiply quite fast.
Man, that's crazy. I need you to do a hype video for this podcast. I don't know what we
Absolutely.
would do, but yeah, it
We'll
just
figure
make
it
us look
out.
cooler. Yeah. Just make us seem more impressive than we really are. That's all I really need. Um, Man, that's crazy. What's the most, because I always enjoy from the outside. From the outside, I enjoy this. I know you guys as the filmmakers don't enjoy these things at all. But what is the most difficult shoot that you've had to do? I mean, what, maybe it was the environment you were in, maybe it was the deadline, maybe it was, things that were outside of your control. If you had to pinpoint one shoot where you're like, man, I love film, but this one really pushed it. This one pushed the limits of my passion. What shoot would that be?
Um, Luckily, I don't have too many of those
That's good.
experiences. But there was this one wedding that I did whenever I was starting out, and it seemed like everything was going wrong. Uh, for starters, it was a summer wedding, so it was triple digits at least. And it was like the peak of day. And at that time, I was learning my camera still. And I I didn't record a lot of the shots. And like as a filmmaker, I think that's like the worst thing that could happen is you don't press record. So I ended up missing like the bride walking down the aisle.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no.
Yeah, so I ended up missing those, and then um it was just like a series of not not really preparing, just like underexposing your camera, and like my audio recorder wasn't working for some reason because there's like an SD card error. So like the vowels were kind of, they weren't really audible.
Oh man.
um but like after that, I I vowed that that would never happen again. So to this day, nothing crazy like that has ever happened. And like even when there were circumstances that were beyond our control, usually it's kind of like we just roll with the punches. We were out, my friend and I were out in Utah at the Salt Flats a couple of months ago, and we are shooting like a fitness campaign for this company, and we get to the Salt Flats at 4 or 5 in the morning,
Yeah.
and it was 20 degrees outside, and the models were freezing, and it was like it wasn't, the clothes that we were shooting for was just like workout clothes, so it wasn't thick, it was just like spandex and shorts and whatnot.
Oh man.
So that was extremely cold. But just like things like that that are out of our control, we just have to roll with the punches and make the best out of of what we have and stuff.
Yeah. It's kind of the name of the game, right? I have
Oh yeah.
a few friends that have been doing film for quite a while, and it's almost like you guys just kind of shrug it off, like, oh,
Yeah.
something went wrong. We had plan A and B, and now
Right.
we're on D, E, F,
Yeah.
and it's like, man.
Exactly.
But you have to have a certain personality to do that. I think, like, you really have to just be someone that's flexible and can roll with
Oh
it,
yeah.
but also someone who's incredibly focused. It's a very interesting dynamic as far
Hmm.
as the different personalities that filmmakers have. Again,
Yeah.
I don't know how you guys do it. I'm glad I'm on
I don't
this
know
side of
how
the
I do
fence.
it.
Yeah, yeah. See, you don't even know how you do it. It's a lot of coffee, a lot of energy. Do you drink coffee?
Yeah, I do. I just
Oh,
started recently.
oh no, the addiction started. I
Yep.
don't drink coffee, but I am a huge energy drink fan. That's kind of my problem.
Mm.
Um, but it's like at some point you knew it was going to happen, right? Like with the weird hours you
Yeah.
have, it's like I'm going to be drinking coffee at some
Actually,
point,
I
right?
actually started on Red Bull and then I moved to coffee.
Oh, okay, all
Yeah.
right. Yeah, I don't think I can ever do coffee. I love energy drinks so much, which is not good. I've told myself I need to quit for quite a while. So I had one earlier today. I haven't
Hmm.
stopped. But yeah, coffee, I just don't like the taste. I think when I was young, I had a pretty big sip of coffee, and I'm like, nah, it just kind of ruined me on it. But you never
That's
know.
I mean, I was like the same way. I hated coffee. I just despised like the bitter. But for some reason I just kept drinking it and then I just learned to like it.
Well, and so now it's a necessity, right? Like if you're editing, shooting,
Yeah,
you just probably always have a
it
cup of
really
coffee with
is
you.
now.
Yeah,
It really is.
man, I'm still trying to fight it. Still trying to fight it off. So, so let me ask you this: as far as when it comes to creativity, so it's kind of a two-part question. One, how do you? I mean, obviously, you have a million post-its behind you and sticky notes and you mentioned that's partially your inspiration, or that's where some of your inspiration is. But number one, where do you find inspiration? How do you stay creative? What kind of things do you do? Do you get outside in nature? Do you listen to music? What kind of things do you do to stay creative? And then two, what do you do if you have a writer's block, I guess, or a creative block, and you're really struggling to put one and two together? You're just not sure how to make them meet. What do you do in a situation like that when you're just struggling to find the creativity?
Yeah, to answer the first part of your question, like I said before, I think a big chunk of my inspiration um comes from like social media. I love to go on Pinterest
Hmm.
and I love to watch like other filmmakers work. And then I'll take pieces and whatnot. But then I think a lot of the other side of my creativity usually comes from whenever I'm shooting and um say something goes wrong, it kind of forces me to like think outside the box. And like it's funny because a lot of the shots that I I've filmed that I really like have always been shots where they weren't planned, they're almost like, oh, this is cool. We might want to try doing this. So it's always been kind of like it's all whenever I'm shooting, it's always been kind of like that extra shot that like we just kind of come up with on the fly. And I think that is because like I don't know if you've heard of this idea where they say that like a lot of creativity can come from um I don't know how they said it. But like whenever your materials are limited, you start to think outside the box. And
Hmm.
I guess it can be like the same way if you have like an abundant supply of materials, then you can also be creative. But whenever there's less materials, it kind of forces you to try new things. And like whenever I'm filming, and this is like basically our whole dynamic with me and Paul because we hardly ever plan anything. We always just plan stuff on the fly. Um, and most of the creativity just like comes up out of nowhere.
Hmm.
Like I don't know where it comes from, but it just comes up.
That's interesting. I really like that. I like that idea of, like you said, if you have an abundance of materials or if you have a lack of materials, it forces the creativity, because at that point all you have is creativity, right? Like
Right, right,
these pieces may not fit, they may not match, nothing really goes together, but we have to figure out a way to make it go together. And I imagine that if you have an abundance, like you said, if you have an abundance of materials and different things to use, then like you said, it could make you more creative. But I imagine it could also make you more,
right.
um, I hate to say lazy, but I mean
Yeah,
potentially, right? Because it's just like, well,
absolutely.
this will be easy. So it's not
Right,
really pushing you and not really pushing your
right.
creativity. But like you said, if you have a lack of materials, that's interesting. I like that. I've never really thought about that before. I do like that. That's interesting.
Hmm.
Um, it kind of reminds me of, I remember when that show Breaking Bad was huge,
I haven't
and
seen Breaking Bad.
oh, really
Yeah.
interesting. I think you would enjoy it. I think
Okay, I'll start on it.
it was that easy, man.
It
I'm
was that
so
easy.
people suggest shows me all the time, and I'm not. I'm like, maybe. And they're like, you're not gonna watch this, so that's good. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think you'd
I'm
enjoy it.
looking for a new show, so
There you go, man. I love that show. It's super creative, and I think from a filmmaking perspective, I think you would really enjoy it. But you know, as that show was wrapping up and they were finishing up that series, I remember the showrunner was he was talking about something, and he said sometimes in the writers' room they would basically paint themselves in a corner intentionally and say, okay, we have to get from here to here. I have no idea how we're going to do it, but we've got to make it happen. And they said when they did that, every time they painted themselves in a corner intentionally, it some of the most creative ideas came out because they had no other option, but they had to
right.
make it work. So
Oh.
it's kind of what you were kind of what you're referring to there with the lack of materials. So
Mhm.
again, man, it's interesting, and there's really no right way to do it either, right?
Right.
It's like each creative has their own process, they have their
Whatever
own
works.
ideas, and whatever works, right?
Mhm.
Um, and so your process, I mean, obviously I know you've gotten inspiration from social media and stuff like that, but as far as your like behind the scenes, your process of doing stuff and kind of your workflow, like where does that come from? Is it kind of a trial and error thing, or did you get some inspiration from somebody?
Yeah, it was definitely a trial and error of just like these past 5 years of just figuring out what works best. I think pretty much nailed down, uh, um, I've pretty much nailed down, what I like to do, but obviously that could change. And it usually just starts out with like the brainstorming and like the organizing, and then I have it all thrown onto like this visual mood board, which is basically like a visual representation of my ideas and like, what soundtracks, what shots, what vibes, just like if I were to throw up all my ideas onto a paper, that's what it would look like.
Yeah.
And then like, of course, the execution, the filming and whatnot. And of course, the post production, the editing, and then finished.
It's got to feel good to give the final product or send the final product to someone, right?
Oh,
Is
yeah.
it's like it's just this weight off your shoulder, and then I imagine it's just you have to wait there for the client's response, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, sometimes they ask for a lot of revisions, so it's not, you kind of give it to them and it's like not fully over, but
Sure.
you're almost there.
So what is like, looking forward, obviously you love the stuff that you're doing right now, but looking forward, what kind of things, like what is like a big dream of yours as far as filmmaking, like do you want to do more like feature length stuff, short films, things like that, or what is kind of the future hold for Keoni?
Um, I actually, aside from filmmaking, I love to travel.
Okay.
And so I'd like to somehow be able to tie those two or connect the bridge together to be able to somehow maybe use filmmaking to fund my travels or work on projects that allow me to travel full time. Um, that's that's the goal right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the most interesting place you've traveled to so far?
Um, I love Utah. Utah has a lot of different um things to do if you're an outdoorsy person.
Okay.
Um, and I'm planning to start traveling internationally at the end of this year.
Okay.
So
Nice.
yeah.
Was we actually had a early on this podcast, man, maybe not early on. No, it's pretty early. We had his name's Brian, and I feel horrible. I'm actually blanking on his last name, but he's a teacher at Rio Americano High School,
Okay.
and he's a Spanish teacher there, but he travels all over the world. That's kind of his thing. And he's got a YouTube
Mhm.
channel, Instagram, all that stuff. But he's been to, I mean, a ridiculous amount of countries,
Oh,
and
okay.
he just travels all the time, and he blogs or vlogs about it, which is pretty cool. Um, but anyways, what's your first stop internationally? Like, where's the dream location?
First stop is Europe. I will be visiting Italy, Austria, Switzerland, and Germany.
Nice, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, it's exciting.
That's very cool. My co-host actually just got back from Europe a little while ago. I think it was
Oh,
before the summer. I think she went before the
yeah.
summer. I don't know. It's all a blur these days. I can't keep
Yeah.
everybody's schedule uh, straight. But yeah, she went there and she had an amazing time. And so, how long are you going to be there?
I 2 weeks,
Okay, so
2 weeks or so.
that's a pretty quick trip. You guys are gonna be
Yes.
moving. Okay,
Oh yeah.
is it just you and a couple of friends, or is it a bigger group?
Just me.
Oh, just you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna be backpacking, so I'll be taking one backpack and that's it.
Oh, nice. That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I'm not that bold to do that, but good for you, man. That's so what inspired that? You just want is it something you always wanted to do, or is there a specific reason you're doing it that way?
Yeah, I mean, um I've always wanted to travel, but obviously actually had my plane booked in 2020
Yeah.
to Paris. But COVID happened, and so like ever since then it's been so hard to travel internationally. Um so I've just been going on road trips and traveling around the United States uh meantime, but I think things are finally starting to get back to normal, so I decided to just book a ticket and go.
That's awesome. Good for you, man. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Um, that's gonna be fun, and I'm sure. And you're gonna bring a camera, right? Or is it like a
Oh
camera?
yeah.
I was gonna say, is it or like a
Nope.
camera free
My
trip? That
camera
would be weird.
goes.
Yeah, yeah. Everywhere you go. Is
Yeah.
there anywhere you don't have your camera?
Not really. I mean, I
Makes
used to
sense.
bring my camera to school every day.
Was that
But
did they like that there, or was that kind of like, oh,
yeah,
is that
I think they liked it. I don't know.
yeah, well, they didn't stop you, then it's not a
Yeah.
problem, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Now
But
you said you took photography in high school.
I did.
Who was your teacher?
Mr. Smith.
Okay, that was at Casa, right?
Yeah.
Okay, different than my teacher. Actually, I'm blanking on what my teacher's name was, but it was not Smith. It was something different. But yeah, he was an intense dude. The guy that I had, it was an
Oh,
interesting class, but I was not,
intense.
yeah, that's putting it lightly. Like I'll say this, he loved photography, which was awesome to have in your teacher. But yeah, he was
He's
uh,
passionate.
very passionate, very passionate. Yeah,
That's
that was an
good.
interesting class. I learned a lot, but again, it wasn't. It was challenging for me. It was challenging. Like all the like again, you just think like, okay, photography, you just make sure it's centered and you don't think much about it. It's like, oh, there's
Right.
all these this composition, placement on, the whole thing. Like, oh,
Yeah.
this was not as easy as I thought it was going to be. So I learned a lot, but it was challenging for sure.
Oh yeah.
Um, but anyways, man, I will. I want to be respectful of your time because I'm sure you have a ton of projects that you would love to get to instead of talking with me. Um, I'm gonna put you on the spot real quick though. So at the end of the year, what we do is we do a guest of the year competition. We do like a March Madness style bracket. We have 16 guests from the first half of the year, 16 guests from the second half of the year, and we just rank them by the amount of downloads that their episode got. Now, two of your clients are going to be going to battle at some point, Mr. Daniel
Oh.
Thomas and Paul Piercy. Um, if you were given one vote, who are you voting for? No, I'm just, you don't
Whoa.
have to. No, you don't have
I
to
don't think
answer
I
that. Yeah, you don't have to answer that. We don't want you to lose clients. That wouldn't be
Oh
great.
yeah.
Yeah. No. But the
Oh,
funny
that's
thing
too
is,
good.
you'll be part of that competition too, because I'm sure your
Cool.
episode's going to do very well. And there's a good chance that you're going to be going up against one or both of those guys. So
Sweet.
hopefully that's not a problem for you guys. It's just fun competition. Now, if you
Nah.
beat them, you know, you can film it. You can film the
Yeah,
reactions.
I
Yeah.
will. Send it to you, have it be a part of our video.
That would be awesome. Just their I don't even know what you'd call it, like the like faces of defeat or something like that. Just each time you take someone out, just
Yeah.
film it. I like that. Um, cool, man. Well, hey, if people want to get in contact with you, if people want to see your work, if they want to just follow you on social media, I'm sure you have every social media platform and website, but tell us where they can find you.
All my socials are Keoni Films, and then my website, keonifilms.com.
Simple enough.
Simple.
Go follow him. His stuff's amazing. You will not be disappointed. You might be terrified if your football team is going to be playing Casa at some point, because his his films make them feel very intimidating. So if you're one of the local schools and you're playing them next, maybe don't watch his stuff yet. Wait until football season's over. That way your son's not terrified of playing Casa. But no, man, this has been a lot of fun. I appreciate you taking some time. I could pick your brain about all of this stuff forever, because I'm super interested in film. I love movies. I love watching creative videos. I just can't do any of it. So I can pick your brain forever, man, but I'm not going to do that. So thank you so much, dude. I
Thank
appreciate it.
you.
Good luck with everything. And we're just going to continue to follow you and keep up with all the great stuff that you're doing.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. Take care, man.
All right. Peace.
Thanks for watching the show. If you enjoyed that episode, make sure you like it, share it, and hit the subscribe button to get a new episode every week. We'll see you next time on the Connectable podcast.